Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, know nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. This is episode 392. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. It's always appreciated. We repeated multiple times at the beginning of a lot of the episodes if you're a frequent listener. And we always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This particular episode is the Vault, episode 392, Trustee Mindset for Employees versus Entrepreneurs. This is something that we definitely have to talk about because so many people have questions from this perspective of being an employee, being a trustee, some of the mindsets that we run into, frequent mindsets from these particular different types of individuals. We've distilled it down to these particular two individuals that are engaging in trusteeship. And so we're going to do an episode focused on the trustee mindset for employees versus entrepreneurs. We may not have too many controversial points in this one, but this is a very lengthy conversation, a lengthy process when we talk about trusteeship and how someone can have an employee mindset in a trustee environment. Somebody say, well, what is the plus or a minus for employee being in trusteeship? Well, what happens is there's a lack of capital raising mindset. As a trustee, you are to raise capital. Traditionally, as a trustee, you're what's called a fiduciary. So if you're a fiduciary, you got to raise capital. What we've seen is employees drop the ball time after time after time after time after time after time after again. And it's because the mindset, it doesn't focus on them having to raise capital. It focuses on them coming in being a cog in the wheel. And when we talk about trusteeship, we're not talking about employeeship or employees. We're talking about entrepreneur mindset, fiduciary mindset. Entrepreneur mindset in any board level, any executive level, you're thinking about growing the company. You're thinking about finding solutions to problems. These are a different mindset versus employees. Now, some employees may be a crisis manager on the inside to focus on finding problems and seeking them out and creating solutions to potential problems and things of that nature. Okay, well, trustee mindset for employees. How do you want to be an employee? Are you looking to be a trustee? Oh, I'm looking to be a trustee, trust Christian in the vault. I'm looking to be in trusteeship, but I don't have an idea that I'm ready to run with. I don't got a company name that I'm ready to run with. You're not an entrepreneur. People got to make the distinction of what they're going to do. So many people trying to say, oh, I'm a part-time trustee and I'm a part-time entrepreneur or I'm a part-time employee. At one point, you got to make a decision. It's a go for it. And what we see is so many employees, they come to the vault and they say, oh, why my results aren't the entrepreneur's results? Because the entrepreneurs are going to make a way. They're going to go out, they're going to make a way to make the business flow with cash. It's called cash flow. That's what they're focused on. The employees are, well, I got a house, I got it, I'm sitting on it, you know, it's not making me much money. Maybe have some family members live there sometimes. I'm really not rented out. Even if I am rented out, it's still not, making me a significant lifestyle because I'm not trying to turn it into a lifestyle. I'm just utilizing it for those small pence of income that it gives me. And this is the mindset that we see across the board amongst the employees out there. They're a little bit more passive in their investment strategy, whereas the entrepreneurs are more active managers of assets. They're active managers of real estate. They're active managers of whatever business that they're an active manager. Whereas the employees, it's not that they're not active. We've seen quite a bit of a passive approach, partially from the mindset of coming from the public world. Not whether it is public or private, it's still trusteeship. That's the question. Is it trusteeship? Yeah. Well, then how can you employ or even use an employee mindset towards trusteeship when an entrepreneur is going to be a fiduciary? An employee is not necessarily always the fiduciary. They're just somebody that just works for the company. They could be at a low level, they could be at the mid level, they could be at the top level, but we're talking about entrepreneurs that have the fiduciary responsibility, same thing as a trustee. Oh man, trust Christian Revolt, can I make it? Can I make it in a trustee training if I am an employee? I don't really have a business. I got some money coming in, and I know I need to protect my assets. I got a job that really it doesn't allow me to 1099. So what am I to do? If I can't 1099, then what am I gonna do? Am I gonna still work my job and then be a trustee of what? Right? You got assets, right? Do you have assets? Well, my house, I don't really own it yet, but it doubled in value. My house, since the pandemic, since the whole situation, my house has doubled in value. I'm not planning on selling right now because it's at the height. But if I sell it, where the profits gonna go? Am I gonna be a trustee and go in the right place? Where the profits gonna go? Am I thinking like an employee? Well, they're either going to go to a personal bank account or they're going to go to a company bank account because you're an entrepreneur. So when you're an entrepreneur, why would they go to the personal account when it's business? It's not personal. It's trusteeship. It's fiduciaryship. It's business. It's not personal. We see these difference in mindsets. The difference in mindset is what distinguishes the results. Some people say, "Oh man, trust Christian vote. Is it really like that? Like if I'm an employee, my chances of making it are very slim." Think about what you're saying. You're looking to say you be wealthy. How you gonna be wealthy? And you're not doing something that gives you financial or economic freedom or opportunity or choice. Entrepreneurship gives you that. So we got the employees maybe think that they gonna get rich off of one situation. They got the lottery ticket mentality. Oh man, you know what? I can get rich off one deal. Ladies and gentlemen, no one gets wealthy off of one deal. They get wealthy off a series of transactions. This is the harsh reality. Oh man, a series of transactions. Trustee mindset's in it for the long haul. Are you in it for the long haul? If you're in it for the long haul, you got this. But most people gonna quit. Why? Because getting wealthy isn't easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. It requires discipline. It requires you to do the minutes every day. Oh man, Trust Christian Revolt really every day? Well, what about if we're not doing business that day? Then obviously you know that then there's nothing to write about. But if it's business not personal, you're writing about the business, right? Right. We already know what we did was epic at the vault. We gave people a glance into the private sector. Told them about what's really going on over here. Oh wow, I want to somebody. Oh, I want to see where you go. Somebody actually said that. They were like one episode. They said we want to see where you're at. We want to see like first of all, we're giving you the just in time inventory of the pretty much the events that we're engaging in with high net worth investors, ultra high net worth investors. We even talk about ultra high net worth investors. We're talking about people that have over $500 million or more. Easy, and literally the funds that we were sitting in the room recently had the fund that host the event had 11 billion assets under management. So that's not a lot, but it's damn sure not a little bit. It's $11 billion is solid. $11 billion is solid nowadays. For assets under management. For them to be what would be considered private. And for the most part, they're not like a publicly traded company, but they do have private partners and They do have registered securities that they are working with their clients with, and these are the mindsets that are entrepreneurship, because some of the individuals were employees, literally. They were employees doing, tax returns and accounting stuff, and then these individuals saw that obviously they couldn't do it as an employee, so they couldn't hack it, quote unquote, which is good, and so they didn't need to hack it. Literally, they just became an entrepreneur. They opened up their own firm. Once they opened up their firm, literally they have $11 billion. 20 years later, they have $11 billion assets under management. And so that's the interesting part is some people don't want to work that hard to put together, a fund that's going to take possibly 20 years to put together. Obviously, a $1 billion fund is, in our age nowadays, interestingly enough, it's not as hard as people think it is, especially if you're in the States. If you're in the States, you're blessed. You gotta just thank your lucky stars. And if you have any type of track record, go out and start marketing yourself and making yourself be known by funds or people that got money. So, at the end of the day, when you're a trustee, you're focused on growing the funds, and that's literally the reason why you, even as a trustee, are going out meeting other funds because you have a track record in different industries and things of that nature. And so that's the trustee mindset that entrepreneur investors have. Entrepreneur investors have the mindset that we're going to grow the funds, and we gotta count our downside. And this is something we definitely want to talk about in this particular episode, because this is where you gotta count your lucky stars that when you're around great investors, they teach you a mindset that literally puts you in the mindset for you to be successful. And that can be hard for people to hear, because it's like, oh wow, what if I'm not in the room with these wealthy people and I'm not getting this mindset? Well, of course that's going to be a detriment, because they do have a specific mindset that they have, and so one of them is they literally said from stage at this recent event that they said literally, we're not in the wealth generation business, we're in the wealth maintenance business. And that's hard for people to hear, because it's like, well, what are they talking about that's different if they're not trying to generate the wealth, but they're focused on not losing it? And what they're really doing is talking about buying insurance to the downside, counting the money to the downside. And so when we say, oh, you're counting something to the downside, what does that mean? Trustee mindset for the entrepreneur investors. Think about, even as an investor, you have to count your downside. It's called risk. So as a trustee, you're taking risks. Employees, their mindset is not as sharp when it comes to taking risks, because they haven't been put in these positions, obviously, that the pressure comes with being an entrepreneur, and vice versa. So we see that. So the entrepreneur investor has to deal with this risk. And when you talk about your risk, what we saw in the wealthy environments is they're talking about risk to the downside. It's the risk to the downside. It's not risk to the upside. Sure, we can count that we're going to get an X, Y, and Z multiple off of whatever we're doing, but ultimately it comes down to how much money can we potentially lose on this one position? How long is it going to take us to recoup the money? And things of that nature. And so you see all these different models that these senior trustees have. So people say, oh man, well, what is trusteeship? What is trusteeship? Trusteeship is the world. These people are managing funds. The fund managers are senior trustees. They're senior trustees over funds. Most people you see on TV are not trustees of funds. They don't get to say, hey, let's put on this position, and they're not the one that checks off the box that says, hey, that's a great position. We're going in whatever position you say we're going in at. They're not a boss like that. They're just on TV. You see these long only funds on coming on TV boo-hooing and crying because they're not the nimble, quote unquote, hedge funds out here. But one thing you can say is, look, and then nevertheless, these funds have tons of money. Who do you want to talk about? Whether it's charity, whether it's endowments, who do you want to talk about? These VCs have money now. The angels have money now. Angels are lighter than the VCs, but the VCs have tons of capital. It's the same thing with, you don't even have to be a hedge fund, quote unquote, to actually manage billions of dollars nowadays. You don't even have to be a fund technically. You can just literally trade funds and manage funds for people as an advisor. And so that's what they're doing. Senior trustees are managing funds. The best senior trustee, people say, well, what does the best senior trusteeship look like? The best senior trustee looks like the ones that are at your bank, that are managing the money at the bank. The easy way. That's what they're doing. See, they're trying to make money easy. So senior trustees, if they're sharp, they go work in the public for 5, 10, 20 years. Why not? The public markets are paying. Private markets are paying too, but the public markets are paying. They might get a surplus on the public markets. Why? Because these companies in the public get bailouts. They might work for a financial institution that can get a bailout. You don't think financial institutions get bailouts? Financial institutions get bailouts. And they still get their bonuses. They still get their packages. Senior trustee mindset. Why? Because they know they don't own it. They just control it. They know this, and they're good at managing money. So that's the senior entrepreneur investor mindset, is because they're good at managing money. They're being put in that position. See, we see so many people that say, oh, I'm good at this, I'm great at this, I'm excellent at this. But in the systems, traditionally, even in trusteeship, it is shown in what you manage. Because remember, trusteeship is own, not to control everything. So it's about what you manage, what you can control as a senior trustee. Now, as an employee, do you control anything? As much as the investor entrepreneur? No. So people see that there's an educational gap. You have to be aware that there's an educational gap for the employees. There's an educational gap. The entrepreneurs, investors have a little bit more grit. They understand self-promotion. You're checking in with a boss every day. The entrepreneurs, they are the boss. They got to check in with themselves every day. Is it that much of a different mindset? Definitely. And you got to guard yourself from these people that think like employees. Especially as a senior trustee. Why? Because a senior trustee, yes, we're very aware that you're in a position where you're quote unquote employed to deploy capital. Okay. As a senior trustee, whether you're working for a big fund, because the bigger funds, it doesn't matter what type of fund, over $50 million plus a fund, over $50 million, they're literally paying for insurance. They don't care. It's not that they don't care about making money to the upside. They're counting their downside risk. What makes you think you're gonna get to that position if you don't count your downside risk early? You have to count your downside risk early. There's no, oh, I'm gonna do that later. No, you do that in the beginning. So the trustee mindset, senior trustee mindset, is very challenging to have. Why? Because now you have to think about your downside traditionally and first before you walk into any investment. Which, if you don't have that mindset, it's not to say that you don't employ that strategy of, oh, we're going to deploy a risk management strategy that counts our downside in somewhere of our investment strategy. It's just when you are sitting in a room with the high net worth investors and they're saying we're doing, that's the first thing we do. We don't care about profits. We care about what? The downside. So they're literally counting it. So you say, well, how can you count the downside before you even know what your potential profit is going to be? So, well, they know how much they're willing to lose at any moment. That's how they know. See the difference? The employee, they have a different mindset. They might not even know that look, we always got more ammunition. We always got dry powder. The trustee mindset knows it's not something that I own, but I am to control it and grow it. I am to control it and grow it. And as you control it and grow it, you're not an employee. Now it's working for quote unquote you, it's working for the trust, it's working for the beneficiaries. People say, oh, are these mindsets really that different? They are. How do you employ a strategy of control and growth if you're trying to do that from an employee position. So many people say, well, okay, well, where do I start? Of course, you might have to open up an LLC. Of course, you might open up a corporation. Of course, you should do that. Why? Because it's entrepreneur mentality. It's not employee mentality. At one point, you got to open up a business, right? Right. It doesn't matter if you're in trusteeship yet. It's that you gotta open a business. Oh man, trust creation involved. Thank you. I appreciate that. I need to open up a company, and then I opened up a company, and I still haven't figured out completely what I'm gonna do. Okay. Like we say, sometimes we get the entrepreneurs, which is not like, oh, we don't get them equally. We get them equally. The entrepreneurs that they're in that space. Yes, they're an entrepreneur. That's what they have to do. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening, replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens, and replay. This is the Vault episode 392, Trustee Mindset for Employees and Entrepreneurs. It's easy to talk about the entrepreneurs because they're the ones that usually win in trusteeship. Whereas the employees, we don't want to tell you that they fail. It's not that they fail, it's that they run into the roadblocks. They allow the roadblocks to step them up. What they said, they let life get in the way. The employees let the life get in the way. What an entrepreneur knows, we got to go out and still create no matter what of life getting in the way. Even an investor. Think about it. If you're living off investments, quote unquote, you're living off some type of like equity that's yielding some type of percentage dividend so you can live off of it. Or you're living off the money you're making off of the principal. Trustee mindset. Are you going to grow the principal or are you just going to eat off of it? Think about those two mindsets. Are you going to just eat off the principal or are you going to grow the principal? We see so many employees covered assets. Oh, I'm going to just sit on the asset. I'm going to sit on the asset. They sitting on assets. They literally sitting on assets. Employees. Why? Because they might be sleeping on their greatest asset, which is themselves. We say, oh, is it bad for them to ask for a 1099 at their job? No, it's not bad. How many people do it? How many people are going to talk to the CEO? How many people are going to talk to the CFO? They say, oh man, I need to make sure I had a conversation with the important people so they can say yes. How many people say that? Like they don't know the company they work for and they don't have LinkedIn. Senior trustee mindset figures it out. Senior trustee mindset makes a way. Senior trustee mindset is willing to put in the work. That's what it comes down to. The work is gritty and grimy, especially as a senior trustee because you're managing other people. You're not just managing assets, you're managing other people now. That's what. See, these are the things they say. Oh, I'm an employee, but I'm trying to be a senior trustee, and I gotta find a lawyer's trust creation involved. I gotta find an accountant's trust creation involved. That's not employee type work, is it? Is it? At your job, quote unquote, do you go out and find accountants and lawyers? Well, I kinda gotta do that for myself when it comes to the job and it comes to what is that? Yeah, I gotta have an accountant for my job. I gotta do taxes at the end of the year. I'm thinking personal, but it's really business. Okay. Trustee mindset for employees and entrepreneurs. That's the difference. Well, we see that the entrepreneurs, investors, they're usually the big winners, the recipients of the beneficiary, well, not beneficiary, but the trustee training. They're definitely the best receivers of it. Uh, we've seen people for years go out and have fun, do their dance, and do the best that they can. So we've always appreciated people that have come through the vault. There's so many examples um, of people coming through and changing lives literally. But what happens is you end up your reach gets really extended. Especially when you got people that they're doing specific things in their echelon, and now they are You never know when you could partner together, when you could joint venture together. One of the things we see a lack of is joint venture in a lot of spaces, but this comes from lack of education when you talk about even employee mindset, because entrepreneur investors, they understand that they have to joint venture with another organization, whether it's a bank or otherwise. That's the difference. Entrepreneurs are going to have to be gritty, whereas so many other people, uh, they don't get that. And so when you see how it really goes out here, it's interesting because we see the senior trustee mindset be very strong in, entrepreneur investor, and the employee mindset is very small, not thinking big, not thinking very big at all. And we encourage people to really kick off the dust, kick big, dream big, to put themselves in a position where uh, where there's quote unquote unlimited financial gain opportunities, as opposed to just an employee situation. And we're talking about this from a trustee mindset period, because even as a senior trustee, there can be a cap on how much you make off of being a manager or asset manager. There's caps on it and things of that nature. So there can be a cap for you being a manager of someone else's assets as an entrepreneur investor as well. And sure, there's money even as an employee, but the money is going to be differently than somebody that actually knows how to drive capital to a company. Anybody that knows how to drive capital to a company is literally going to have the skill set that we call senior asset management, which is they know how to create a risk adjusted return. They know how to count their risk to the downside, and they also are getting, they're getting a good pay ratio, and it's not even just 1 to 1. It's greater than 1 to 1, and it's definitely greater than 2 to 1. They're getting a greater return than that, and that's a lot, because when you think about that, that means they're getting over 20 plus percent returns. Um, that's not normal when you talk about the S&P hasn't done that. We're talking about they're doing that year over year. So every year they're doing 20% plus returns, and that's not, it sounds as easy as it sounds. Um, so so many people have an issue with that, like, oh man, well, if I get 25% returns or 30% returns, those are good. Well, I mean, outside of the hedge fund world, of course they're good. For the average investor, for somebody that doesn't really know investing, sure, we can see greater returns than that in our space, hundreds of percent. But particularly in a situation on the public side, some people say, oh, well, if I just got in something that gave me a, what is that, 20%, or even if the manager is just talking about a 20% management fee, you can see how big that can be. So there can be a cap for the trustees quote unquote salary, things of that nature. Of course, in the private sector, you might not put the trustee on the salary. So when we talk about trusteeship from the employee and the entrepreneur mindset, we're talking about public and private, because this is always going to come down to what? Public and private. That's what it's going to come down to. Public and private. Trustee mindset for employees and entrepreneurs. Yeah, we've seen a lot of people come through the vault, but at the end of the day, if you're going to go through the vault's trustee training, just make it a point to have your entrepreneur investor cap on. Those are the most successful trustee results. It's people that, have an idea, have a company, and they're looking to, make it a point to move the way in which they know they're willing to honor the contracts. They're willing to honor the contracts. They're willing to, do what the company documents say that they're supposed to do. And these are things that you see in different trustees doing it, and then maybe trustees in different positions, maybe an employee position maybe doesn't do them. So even if you're an entrepreneur, you don't. At the end of the day, you gotta have the mindset that we're going to do what we're talking about. Growing the funds, doing the meetings, doing the minutes. These are the things you have to do as a senior trustee. There's no days off from trusteeship. Think about it. You're on 24 call as a trustee for your family estate. Everybody say, "Oh, I'm trying to be a trustee for my family estate." Okay, then you're on call for 24/7 for your trustee family. Your trust family that you're a trustee over. That's what people are supposed to be saying. "Oh, I'm on 24 call for that." Right. That means you at least need a phone. Where's the money going to come from? It's supposed to come from your family that's giving you some scraps or some shekels to do what? Put into a business, to put into the trust, so the trust can pay for some expenses to get a business off the ground. That's how it goes. "Oh man, my family didn't give me anything." Sounds like your family trusts Christian in the fold. Right. So what are you going to do? Build something. "Oh man, Trust Christian Vault, man, I'm trying to tell you this entrepreneur route, it ain't as easy as everybody say it is. I'm still working a job, maybe part time. It's not as easy as they say it is. Exactly. So you got to make a decision. You either all in or you not." "Oh man, I mean, I'm doing my best. I'm getting there. I'm still going out a little bit. I might be hitting a happy hour every now and then." "Oh really?" Senior trustees, you're on duty 24/7 now. Your job is to protect, grow, preserve, and pass along wealth. Right? Right? But you still got to grow it. Man, it's a lot to do, getting this first generation wealth off the ground. I'm looking to get $10 million plus. How much money are you looking to get? As an entrepreneur investor, how much money are you looking to get? Because that'll let you know where and how your investment strategy is going to go. Maybe you'll be a little bit more aggressive at one point in time or not. These are the things that you think about as a senior trustee. So are you playing a long game? You playing that 20-year game where you're going to get $1 billion company off the ground, in 20 years? Hey, if you're under 30, you got a fighting chance. You just got to strap down maybe 5 years earlier. If you're 30, hey, you're going till you're 50. If you're 35, you're going to 55. If you're 40, you're going to 60. And most people that are past 45, they probably don't have the energy to actually go for $1 billion and get that before they're 60 years old, for sure. You ask the average individual, they'll probably say they're not going to try to go really work hard to get it. And that's the bottom line. But somebody under 35, you have a for sure fighting chance at doing it before you're at least, 20 years out. And that's a far stretch for people. Why? Because when you think about it, that means as a senior trustee, you're on call. What industries do you have to get in to make your money multiply very fast? What industries do you have to get? Can you be an employee and do that? Probably not. So now you got to be an entrepreneur. Now you got to be an investor. Remember, you get wealthy off a series of transactions. So bam, I got to have an entrepreneur investor mentality where I got multiple things going on. I thought I was going to get wealthy off of one thing. I thought I was going to make $1 million off one company. One of the craziest ideas they got on the internet right now. "Oh wow, I'm going to make $1 million off one business." Yeah, but you don't know that most millionaires got multiple businesses. It's hard for people to believe because people say, "Oh man, I got all these ideas, but I didn't make money off them." No, you don't want to hear that most entrepreneurs take a few years to get the business off the ground. Some of them might take 6 to 7 years. Some of them might take 10 years. So it's like, oh man, they had 5 or 6 things going on for about 5 or 6 years. Yeah, and then 5 or 6 years down the road, they're a millionaire. Oh man, I gotta keep creating. I gotta create when it doesn't look good. I gotta create when it's not well received, but it's still received in general. It's still received by people. They appreciate it. I got paid it. It showed me I got a market I can sell to. I just gotta get my analytics better. All this type of stuff. That's not an employee. That's an entrepreneur. That's an investor. Why? Because you're gonna keep going back at the wood at the axe. You're trying to sharpen that axe so you can cut down that wood. You're sharpening your axe. You're putting in the sweaty hours. Oh man, we heard one of the mentors say 100 hours a week. How do you think you're gonna compete against a mentor that's willing to work 100 hours a week? People don't even want to hear that. Work 100 hours a week, right? Because you don't want to be a billionaire. Oh man, I think I can become a billionaire by not working 100 hours a week. That's what you think, but you don't want to know that. So don't even worry. We know you're not gonna make it. For the rest of us, that really know, like you actually have a fighting chance, even if you didn't do 100. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, man, man, 100 hours is serious. Like that's you got to dedicate. But I was like, what if you just did like 80 or 60 plus? Because the average American, they say right now, is only working 21 to 25 hours a week. The average American. What are you talking about? Oh, they want to work 35 hours a week? What if you just worked 60? You got a fighting chance. You got a fighting chance if you work 60. You have a fighting chance. You do not have a fighting chance at becoming a billionaire. Are you serious? If you're not willing to work 60 hours a week, you think you're going to manage $1 billion or have $1 billion and not have worked 60 hours a week for at least 10 years of your life? You don't think you're gonna move around like a crazy person? Like, man, well, when do you sleep? Maybe when you get the hyperbaric chamber, when you're a multimillionaire, billionaire. Remember, you can pay for that. The billion doesn't come right away, so you can get your hyperbaric chamber when you got hundreds, when you got millions of dollars. You can get a hyperbaric chamber. You can get some stuff, the anti-aging. You can do all of that. They got the anti-aging going on now. Senior trustee mindset. They understand that time is something that we cannot get back, or even the energy that we expel, we can't get back. And the way that we get it back is the money paying us dividends and the money paying us returns. But we got to overemphasize this point because there's people on the line here. You got to count your downside before you count your upside. That's a hard reality to hear because so many people think, oh man, if I go into this investment, how much money am I going to make? Of course, you're going to think about how much money you're going to make. But the mentors and the way that we're moving, and even in the ultra high net worth investor environment, we're talking about what? Counting your downside on the front end, which is a very, very critical point. Very critical point. Because it's not that they don't look for an upside, they're just counting downside first. That covers them to make sure that they know they cover their downside. It's not like, oh, well, we do that like a third or fourth in the process. No, they don't do it third or fourth in the process. They actually do it first. That's important because it dictates their strategy because they already know how much they're going to lose, what their potential downside is from the beginning. So now any upside that they can squeeze out of it, as long as it surpasses their break even, literally, you think about it, if it surpasses your break even, you're good to go. Trustee mindset is focused on actually growing assets, not just sitting on them. We've talked about this, but when you realize that a lot of the senior trustees definitely are running around like a chicken with their head cut off because they're managing assets. And so if they're managing assets, which they are, they're gonna have a certain energy about them. Everybody thinks, oh man, I want to be a trader. Everybody says, oh, I want to be a trustee. I want to be a senior trustee in my family estate. Maybe you can sit on the board, but you taking a daily decisive action, you can hire a CEO trustee, somebody that actually gets the job done. Why not go on the internet and find someone on the internet that's an ex-CEO that'll lease out their services to you for specific things? Why not go find a CEO? Why do you have to be the CEO? We see so many people say, oh, I'm the CEO. No, you're more like the founder of the idea. That's fair. But you're not the CEO anymore. See, whether y'all know it or not, you can keep calling yourself CEO and you can be a small business for the rest of your life. Or you can say, you know what? I'm going to become a founder and I'm going to find a CEO to manage this company and now we're going public. That's what's going to happen. Trustee mindset versus, you know, any other type of mindset. You're managing assets, and assets are people. People are assets. Oh man, we don't need to give you the ooey gooey. The numbers are the assets too. So where are we at in the process of trusteeship and growing trustee training? Because the trustee mindset for trustee training is we're working with, we do the workshops. We do the workshops and we're going to event with all of the foundations, which is a big deal. And so, that's the biggest deal right now that we're focused on over at the vault, is making sure that we can put together workshops for the families that we work for and work with as well. And that's a big deal, because a lot of times a lot of people ask, well, how does it look behind the scenes of the vault? And ultimately, we're helping families, sometimes individuals, put themselves in a different position through business management strategies. But nevertheless, it's trust Christian own not to control everything. So clearly, people are focused on trust Christian own not to. They're focused on own not to control everything. That's the trustee mindset. So when they talk about employeeship, they know, like, okay, as an employee, I got to figure out how to make myself into an entrepreneur investor, because they understand it now that they're managing assets, and every asset needs to be managed by a third party other than themselves. They understand that. Employees start distancing themselves from assets. People ask, like, oh, how do I protect this asset and I'm still an employee? Well, obviously you want to be in trusteeship. You obviously want to be an entrepreneur investor. Why? So you can put things in a position where the assets are not owned by you. That's what happens. So it's not legal advice, not financial advice. We're just stating, for the record, having conversations that, you know, this is the difference between the two mindsets. People ask, well, what's the difference? This is the difference. We're having a conversation with the employees quite frequently, and they need a lot of help because they need time management skills, they need task management skills. It's unfortunate that the employees need all this help. But the entrepreneurs usually can make the meetings on time. They usually focus on the study because they may come from a background where they have a trade. They may come back from a background where they had to dedicate themselves to their craft and things of that nature. So we see that among the entrepreneurs. But these are the differences between the employees and the entrepreneurs. Is that literally? So definitely appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. This is the Vault, episode 392, Trustee Mindset for Employees and Entrepreneurs. It's not easy to make it as an employee because it doesn't have that forward-looking growth mindset. And even if it does, when you get in trusteeship, you can't have an employee mindset, because that means you're taking orders from somebody. When you're the senior trustee of the family estate, you're setting the standard high. You're setting the bar high. But oh no, no, I'm not trying to work 60 hours. So how can you expect your family to work 40 hours in the business if you're not working 40 hours in the business for the family estate to be wealthy? You think you're going to work what, 20 hours and get wealthy? We're not talking about, oh, you're going to make a couple $1,000 here or there or whatever. We're actually talking about making millions of dollars every single year. Maybe some people are not looking to do that. Maybe some people are not. But nevertheless, when it comes to some people that are looking to do that, a lot of younger people looking to have this $1 million lifestyle. Well, if you're looking to have the $1 million lifestyle, you can't think like, oh man, I'm going to have a 20-hour work week and I'm going to make it. First of all, how do you think that? How do you think you're going to work 20 hours a week and make it? The professions that are managing these assets are asset managers, portfolio managers, risk managers. They're working 60 hours a week minimum. We're being generous. Oh man, but you think you're going to learn it at home by yourself when these people had to learn in the office on the fly. So you got to put in that double time. You got to put in those weekends. You got to put in those late nights. Burn the midnight oil, as they say. Really? Yeah. We got trustees going to law school right now. We got trustees that are lawyers. Trustee mindset for employees and entrepreneurs. People say, "Oh man, who's this information for? Is it for me? Can I make it? Am I looking to make a quantum leap? Are you looking to make your family something and passing it along in a proper position? Are you gonna keep questioning that after you heard it already? You already know that it's about passing the wealth along in a proper position, but are we going to just keep going through generation after generation, not being able to hold on any small pence to get to the next generation to come up off of? Maybe not. That's the difference. And if you are, well, we're talking about doing it in the correct position. We heard this famous person actually the other day that was supposed to be on the internet, famous person. Next thing you know, they talked to one of our colleagues, and literally our colleague says, "Yeah, they're not even in the right position. They're not even in a charity." But a lot of people would think that this individual, because the way that they talk, oh man, this person's in a position where they're in the own nothing, control everything position, and they're not, because they don't have trust Christian in the vault around, and they need trust Christian in the vault around. That's why. That's the difference. It's trustee mindset for employees and entrepreneurs. They don't really know they're trustees. They're probably not trustees. They're still thinking like an employee. They might not be a trustee. Why? Because they didn't go through trustee training. They need to go through trustee training so they can know how to be a better trustee. Not just a better entrepreneur, not just a better investor, a better trustee. The email is christian@trustchristian.com. Once again, that's christian@trustchristian.com. We always appreciate everybody that's reached out. We actually been thinking about doing another workshop here. So we got so many trustees right now that we think we might have to do more of a accommodative trustee workshop, whereas the last workshop, well, it was definitely up there for sure. But we think we might double back, do what's called like a family reunion where people can meet up over the summer. People might be on vacations and things like that, so we might do it right there in a sunny state, and give people some rays so they can get around the world into a hospitable environment. So we'll definitely keep you all posted on that one when it comes to the what is that? The workshop that we're planning on doing. Uh, but at the same time, appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening, replay. This is the Vault, Trust Christian, Own Nothing, Control Everything. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening, replay. Christian@trustchristian.com is the email you can reach us at. Christian@trustchristian.com.